Hello and welcome to Lit Illuminated. I am Rebecca Beardsall and I'm thrilled to have you here with me today. For this episode, we are going to be looking at Catarina by Becky Manawatu. This book is currently available in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I believe it's coming to the US and Australia in 2025. I'm not sure. There are resources of how to get books from around the world, so I can put some of that in the show notes. I'll put the link to the book there if you can't wait till 2025 to get your hands on this wonderful novel. So this book returns us to a character from one of Manawatu's earlier books. I believe it was her debut novel. And so it was exciting to move back into these characters to get some insights in that space. So to talk a little bit about the book as a whole, this book was actually written in first person plural point of view, meaning that the narrator is a we, and the reader is introduced to this in the first sentence. We are telling this story. John Gardner, author of The Art of Fiction, calls first-person plural point of view the we voice. It's kind of like the town point of view. There's a collective that's telling this story. And in that, Gardner suggests that these kind of stories often foreground a secret. And that is what we kind of see in Catarina. Things are slowly revealed to us as we move forward in the novel. And I think what's interesting about that we in this space is that it's a collapsing of time. And it also provides a space for us to get into the minds of multiple characters, to see points of view in different ways. But this idea of this secret or something that needs to be revealed, you're always just kind of on the edge of it as you're moving through, and you're like, okay, I'm seeing bits and pieces here. I'm putting it all together, working out the puzzle and trying to solve it. And the other thing that this novel uses is the free direct indirect, and it's a technique that is used in third person narrations to show a character's thoughts. In free indirect speech, we enter the thoughts of the character. It's through it is as though we're having this kind of first person narrator's experience, but from a third person's perspective. And in some way, it's this we that is giving us a perspective, but we're also having a bit of that first person. So James Wood, in his book, How Fiction Works, states that we inhabit omniscience and partiality at once in this state. And it is this state of omniscience that we move into what Wood states is this human state of half knowledge. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like there's parts here where you're getting into the details, but not fully all the details. And you kind of always feel like you have to build it to get the full understanding. So throughout the novel, we are getting these glimpses of moments that are layering and creating a story, a moment at a time. And it reminds me of this process of the way that we get to know a person. We learn about their future, past, and present via conversations, and they begin to take a larger shape in our mind as we gather information about who they are, connect their dots. And I think in some way that's how Catarina's story comes to us. We are getting to know her and her life through each chapter that we go through in this space. And because it's not linear, because it's just not like, okay, she was born and then this happened, then this happened, and this happened. You see the arc then, right? In the traditional linear way of seeing someone's life. And as I said, I feel like this is in some way the way that we are introduced to a friend. We become friends with someone later in life. Like we don't know them from childhood. We're meeting them in their 40s and we're trying to figure out, we know who they are now in front of us, but how did they get to be that person? And what's their past? What was their upbringing like? What are they pulling in from their ancestors? what are their dreams of the future? Where do they want to go? What's that? You're putting together all those pieces as you're slowly, getting to know someone. It's this reveal, right? And so in that sense, I think the first person plural point of view is a brilliant way for Mena to weave this time and generations throughout a single novel. And so in each chapter, we get this kind of relationship to time, and they're titled around time. So we have, like, for example, 37 years before the girl shot the man, 2 years after the girl shot the man, the moment the girl shot the man, the 7th of January 2020, Field Study Day. This is a little bit of an outlier from the day the girl shot the man. But it is a parallel story that's going alongside Katarina's story. And so we sometimes in that space go to this present day. And it's not related, but it's related. So when you get to that title, it's a layered story on top of a layered story. And then there are a few chapters that are titled 128 years before the girl shot the man. And this is reaching back to the ancestors. And there is a moment where the portal of time is opened up, and I loved it. If you've been following me at all, you know that I love time. You know how I love how we get connected to our ancestors. And so it was on page 171 in the book. And so I'm just going to read a couple quotes from there to kind of show how this portal of time opens up between Katarina and her ancestor. And there's a bigger connection that I'm not going to talk about right now because I want you to read the book and see how that connection goes in there. But there's this beautiful seeing that happens. And so to quote, she was looking through the portal, a veil, but when she touched the veil, it was hard and cold. And it was not fear of a single event she was experiencing, it was layered. And I love that in this moment of the ancestor and Katarina seeing each other, like they physically saw each other, and we get that sensation in here that it wasn't this idea. And I'll read that quote again from 171. It was not fear of the single event she was experiencing. It was layered. And so as they both were experiencing something very traumatic, they were layered. The whole experience was layered. And I love that she used that term there. And then she continues on through this, that they're seeing each other, right? The woman in the house with the man wielding a can opener looked right at the woman beside the river who had just murdered a man with a can opener. She looked right into her eyes. And this is the connect across the span of time. So this layering is what makes Katarina a marvelous work of fiction that brings together multiple lives into a single storyline, into a way of entering into someone's story. And I think we often don't get that layered experience of characters. We either get them in the space of, they were born and then this whole thing happened, or we come to them as a teenager and it's this kind of like coming of age novel, and we just kind of move them from point A to point B. Where this novel really takes us through a life back and forth through time, the layering of current events, past events, future events, to understand the complexity of how we come to this world and how we come to relationship, how we come to know ourselves, and a way to understand how we are in the world. It was just marvelously done. As somebody who enjoys reading novels that don't follow linear time, I thought the first person plural was a wonderful way to add to the complexity of like a circle or spiral of time, that we are moving through multiple layers of not only time, but also people and the way people change and the way their thoughts change and who they become in those different spaces as we move through time. So anyway, I highly recommend it. Catarina by Becky Manawatu. Again, currently only available in Aotearoa, New Zealand, soon to be available in the US and Australia, and I'm sure other places as well. Keep your eye out for it. I highly recommend it. I will put a link to a place where you can purchase it now. Even if you are in the US or some of those other places, they do ship internationally. So I will put that in the show notes. Thank you for joining me today on this A Little Illuminated, and I really encourage you to check out this book.